Hello. I'd like to talk about sensitivity and how to turn what often seems like the curse of sensitivity into blessings. I'm a sensitive person myself and always have been. I tend to be of the view that sensitivity is something that a person is born with. And of course, there are many different types of sensitivity. So primarily, I think what I'm speaking about is um, sensitive is the ability to feel strongly. Um, the perhaps what might be seen as the curse of being more sensitive to maybe to noise, maybe to certain foods, maybe to alcohol, maybe to fabrics, um, a whole range of things come under the banner of sensitivity. Where I have discussions about it most with clients, and where I use both the trainings, many of which have been taken as I've wanted to um, heal from the impact of things that I have been sensitive to, or just to understand my level of sensitivity and make the most of it in life. So when I talk to clients, it's often from the point of view that we speak of, the woundings they've experienced in their childhood. And often, well, sometimes people think that, it's these woundings that has made them more sensitive. I tend to think it's probably more likely the other way around, that people who are more sensitive by nature traumatize more easily. So those who are not as sensitive don't feel the impact or the residue of experiences which others might consider wounding or traumatizing. They just don't, some don't experience it as much as others. They don't experience things as acutely as others. And they're able, seemingly, to, it's like the water off the duck's back. They're seemingly able just to move through something that's been tragic or traumatizing and just move on from it. A more sensitive person is likely to feel it more deeply, think about it more deeply. It's probably going to have more heightened emotional reactions. Yeah. And it's the emotional reactions which often then tend to become problematic in adult life, and particularly in relationships. Quite often, sensitive people, although they might be the people that would do really well in relationship, but often they don't do so well just because they're probably going to react more readily to things that their partner is doing. So there's likely to be maybe more emotional drama, more emotional reactivity, which of course creates problems, particularly if the other person is not of the same sensitive nature and doesn't really understand. Somebody is of the same sensitive nature, well, one, there's a possibility that they could understand, but two, there's also the possibility that you're going to clash. I mean, two sensitive people the modern word is triggered at the same time, may not have a very good outcome. So one of the things to do with sensitivity is really just to be aware of the nature of it, of how it presents within you. And you might want to go back, think back over your life and think of all the things that might indicate that you are a sensitive person. Maybe it is, high sensitivity to noise. Maybe it has been to do with sensitivity towards certain fabrics or foods, or perhaps as an adult, you found that alcohol doesn't agree with you. Maybe drugs don't agree with you. I'm actually talking about prescription drugs there, but maybe others as well if you had those experiences. For women, maybe it's the contraceptive pill that doesn't agree with them. All of these are examples of heightened sensitivity. And if this is you, you may be looking around and thinking, what's wrong with me? Because none of my friends are having any problems with any of these things. And how do I become more normal? Well, you can't. If you're a person with heightened sensitivity, you can't become like people who have lower levels of sensitivity, but you can start seeing sensitivity as a gift and considering how you might develop it from it being the word I used at the beginning, being like a curse, to being a gift. So I'll talk now from my personal experience. So my own story was in my 20s, really. I suppose I first realized the impact of my sensitivity. I mean, as a child, I'd been told I was sensitive. I was told that I was dreamy. There were comments there from other people which would indicate that they saw me as sensitive. If I look back, I was a child that I used to sleepwalk. I used to have nightmares. As a teenager, I remember being really sensitive to the lighting in stores. Like I'd have to come out after a short period of time. And definitely fabrics, like wool was way too scratchy for me. Yeah, I couldn't wear that. As it happened, I didn't have any like severe food sensitivities. In my early 20s, like many other women, I took the contraceptive pill. And I then stopped taking it for a while, and it totally messed around with my periods, which had actually been regular before that, although painful, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to take the pill. But after that, there was actually a period when I didn't have any at all for a couple of years, and a doctor put me on the progesterone only pill instead. And then another doctor put me back on the combined pill. And at that point, I started getting repeated episodes of thrush, and it wouldn't go away. It became chronic. Now, you may know, because more is known these days, that chronic thrush infections are usually due to having the fungus not just in a local place, but in your gut, and possibly causing impacts in other parts of the body. And these days we refer this to as a candida overgrowth. So I had a candida overgrowth, and which wasn't really recognized back at the time. So we're talking like probably coming up for 40 years ago. So initially I took the lotions and potions from the doctor. Nothing worked. I went to a gynecologist. I actually had a couple of surgical investigations to see what was wrong. And eventually I started finding my way to alternative practitioners, to nutritionists, to homeopaths, and in bookshops, in sort of small alternative bookshops, a couple of books dropped off the shelf to do with yeast overgrowth and candida. So once I'd found those books, I could, self-diagnose. I knew what was wrong, but getting a doctor to agree with me was more challenging. Eventually, to cut the long story short, I did find somebody who was a doctor, but also honored alternatives, and specifically was a nutritional doctor. So he corrected my nutritional deficiencies. And I believe that that really helped. There were some emotional things going on in my life as well. So once all that had been sorted, my health did start to improve. So I would say it was probably a mix of conventional alternative things that helped me to solve the problem. However, that's not the point. The point was, as a result of exploring the alternatives, a new world opened up to me, a new philosophy opened up. So I started, at that point, I had started studying or looking into Taoist philosophy, macrobiotics, learning shiatsu, and I'd also taken up yoga. So go back, say, 35, almost 40 years ago, all of these things were pretty fringe at the time. But it was through that that I started also learning about the body, the emotions. I started subsequently, I had burned out at work in a very busy management consulting job. I went self-employed, and that gave me time to do more training. I delved into the humanistic psychologies, to Gestalt, psychosynthesis, went into therapy for myself. And now the next thing that happened was now I'm starting to learn the difference between a thought and a feeling, which until that point, according to the therapist, I did not know. So I just wasn't really, I'd done what a lot of sensitive people do, particularly go back at that time when there's less emphasis on emotional process and emotional intelligence. So I had bottled down my feelings and was operating from my head. This is common for sensitive people. So the healing process, when we're doing coaching or whatever you're doing, where it's really vital for sensitive people to get really in touch with their emotions, what they're actually feeling, and then we can start to unravel the layers of conditioning, the conditioning that's over that's over the wound, because you have, if you followed me at all by email or watched any of my videos, you'll know I talk about a lot about essence and design, because two of my sort of offers are to do with, and I use them all in coaching, to do with human design, which helps people to really see how they're wired, right? And then I do color palettes for people, which is them, a person's essence at the level of vibration or frequency. It's like their presentation as a vibration of light. I use these tools because they align a person or connect them to who they truly are underneath the wounding and the conditioned behaviors that cover up because you have the essence, you have the wounding, then you have the conditioned behaviors. So we need to cut through these conditioned behaviors, heal the wounds in order to release the essence. And once we've released the essence, this is when a sensitive person can start to realize the gift. Because if you're sensitive, you may feel what we call, some of the negatives in life more strongly, the wounding experiences, but you're also able to experience the beauty, the joy, the love more strongly. You're able to appreciate the good things more strongly. You also have a much greater sensitivity to others, but it's vital if you want to work with others to do your own healing and remove those layers of conditioning first. Otherwise, you're always dealing with others through a heavy filter. So we want to remove this filter as much as possible to make you a clear channel when you're working with others. But the fact that you're sensitive likely means you've got more energetic pickup from other people. So depending, because we're all different, you may have better psychic pickup, better intuitive pickup better sensing. If you're a feeling person, you may pick up more through your hands. You're just going to know what's going on in a room. You're going to be able to read a room a lot better than an insensitive person, but you want to be reading that room accurately. And the way to do that is clearing these layers of conditioning. And this is why in my coaching, I focus so much on, emotional process tools. I have one that I use with my private clients, which is called radical releasing, where we basically look at the beliefs that a person is operating under, which are often a response to the wounding situation, and the emotions attached with those beliefs. So we sort of detach the emotions from the belief. We're actually rewiring a person in the process. And then I also recommend that every person has some sort of tool that they can use for themselves, that they don't need to pay for an expensive coaching or healing consultation to do that work. Of course, there are times when it's great to have, a healing, a coaching session, a reading, whatever. These are important. But from a day-to-day point of view, you want a tool that you can use when you're experiencing heightened emotions, so that you can work with those emotions, work out what's going on underneath before you have a conversation with anybody you need to have a conversation to. What we're looking to do, every one of us, actually sensitive or not, it's just that the sensitive people can often react more readily, but we want to reduce that level of reactivity. We want to change our reactions into intelligent responses to a situation. We want to flow with emotion. We want to feel them all, but flow with them, not react, not have a short fuse, not be like not so that other people think that they're having to step through a minefield when they're speaking to us. And yes, definitely, if you have, heightened anxiety, heightened worry, things like that, then it's definitely, you want to be operating from a calmer place. Your heightened anxiety, etc. It's like probably from past trauma. It's like the fight, flight, freeze, fawn process has got a bit stuck. So you're still in this like anxiety state, waiting for something to happen because you don't know when something's going to happen. So yeah, we want to do the rewiring, and you want a tool to be able to do some on a daily basis. I do have some that I offer to my clients. I can also recommend like healing recordings to people, and many people, I don't teach it myself, but many people use EFT or tapping on a daily basis, which is such a great tool for sensitive people. So that's something you can look into very easily, but find yourself a tool that helps you to understand and work with emotions. I also like maps of emotions. My maps of emotions come mostly from the Eastern traditions, specifically from the Taoist and the yogic traditions, but you'll also find the same maps in Buddhist traditions and probably all over the traditions. The thing about the ones that I have is there are actually practices to go with them. So it's good to learn the map so you understand your emotional landscape, but then you have a practice to work with those emotions so that nothing gets stuck. And all the time, this is not something that happens one day to the next. I mean, I've been doing these practices for decades. So, and this is the result. The result is you do get to the other side of the problems with sensitivity. You do get to the other side of it. You do it as you work with these, your emotions regulate, they sort themselves out. You feel all the emotions, but you get to remain calm and centered. So the world, instead of you being pulled all over the place by the world, you get to be calm and centered. The world goes on around you. You choose when you need to make an intervention or a response in order to keep your life operating well in all areas of life, including relationships. The other thing I wanted to mention is there is a lot of information on the internet these days as a result of the coaching and healing businesses exploding. So, Google highly sensitive people, read about it, identify yourself, work yourself out. Yeah, come and have a human design reading with me. We can look at it through that lens. That's always helpful to see where where your sensitivity might be tripping you up, and how you might turn that, what you need to do, and what process you need to turn that around. Because I would want everybody to really feel that they're fulfilled on purpose, and I would hate anybody to feel that there was anything wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with you. Everybody here is a facet of the divine jewel, if I might say it that way. Everybody is perfect. Yes, the layers of conditioning that have come over the top. We haven't all lived perfect lives. Very few people have perfect families. Everybody has got experience wounds and traumas, of course, not all of the same severity. And as I said at the beginning, even two people who had experienced wounds and traumas of the same severity, you get a very different response, and probably the more sensitive person would be the more traumatized. So you're unique, you have gifts, and my concern through my work is to help every person to realize those gifts, but particularly the sensitive people. I enjoy supporting sensitive people. I understand them, obviously. And yeah, if this is you, I want you to make use of that sensitivity. Use it to do some good in the world, use it to help others, use it to understand others. But please work on yourself first. Please do the emotional work. Things like yoga, qigong, meditation. Find the teachers that you resonate with. Find places where you can do that emotional work. Find what brings you to a state of calm. Don't think you just have to live with high levels of anxiety or fear. I'm going to leave it there. Lots of love. I hope this has been helpful.